Hey everybody, just wanted to give a quick review video on how to shade a circle and make it a sphere. So I have over here written on the side my steps. Just a quick reminder, we have figure out where our light source is, then we put our value scale on an object, and then we add our shadow, and that's the last thing that we do. So first we want to figure out where our light source is, and in our example it's on the right, coming down onto our little circle here. And the next thing that we would want to do is figure out our value scale on the object. So obviously the area that's closest to the light area here is going to be the lightest because it's got the most direct light. And then as we go back towards the edge of the object here that's facing away from our light source, the darker that's going to be. So as you can see here, that's going to be this area is going to be our darkest. And this is going to be our lightest. So we'll label that lightest and darkest. Alright? Now, a couple ways to do this that we've talked about in class. So one of the most easiest ways to do it is cross-hatching. Just abbreviate that there, cross-hatching. And that involves making little lines like this, and then going the other direction to create shadows. We talked about that. The other one that we talked about is stippling. Abbreviate that as well. And that's just using a whole bunch of tiny little dots. And the more tightly packed the dots are, that's going to give you a darker surface. And then the more spread out the dots are, that's going to give you a lighter surface. Our example here, this is pretty much just hatching, which is just using straight lines. So the more packed they are, the darker it is, the more spread out they are, the lighter it is. Alright? And then the last thing that we want to do here is going to add the shadow. Now, since the shadow is underneath the object, remember we talked about perspective and looking at our still lives, the shadows are usually kind of stretched out versions of the shape. So since this is a sphere, the stretched out version of that is going to be an ellipse. So that's here in blue. And that is usually, pretty much almost always, going to be the darkest value on your drawing because it's the shade, right? There's no light touching this area. Now, for those of you that are more advanced that you can remember it, there's technically a fourth step, and that's going to be to add a back shadow because this light, as it's coming off of this object here, right? We'll switch to our pointing color. As it bounces off the ground and it reflects back off of the surrounding area around the shadow back onto the object, it's going to create a slight highlight just around the edge of the object. So if I get rid of our drawing here, I move this object, you can see here on this drawing, right, where they've got the edge, right along here, it's a little bit lighter than it is right in this crescent right here, and that's the back shadow. And that is our real quick tutorial just on how to shade a sphere, but you can really apply this method to any object or any shape.